Comic Timing is Patreon supported by you fair listeners over at patreon.com/comic timing. We thank you very much for your continued support of the show. For as little as $1 a month, you can get some behind the scenes action, get some behind the scenes voting and participation, get some access to episodes that will be exclusive to there and possibly eventually on the feed, but maybe not for a month or two, depending on scheduling and whatnot. You'll also get some behind the scenes diaries and a bunch of other goodies, and we thank you very much for your support at patreon.com/comic timing. Hey there, folks. My name's Ian Levinstein, and welcome to episode 239 of Comic Timing. As Mr. Chris Eberly rocks out to the very, very much 2000s rock that we start things off with here, I will introduce him first. Of course, returning Mr. Eberly. Good to see you, my friend.
Levinstein, honored to be here. Thanks, brother.
My pleasure. Also joining us, Shane.
Hello.
Hello. La, la, la.
La, la, la.
And of course, Adam Murdo rounding out the foursome. You're well into your rehearsal stage, Murd, and I thank you very much for being awake and alert for this episode.
Here, here.
Nope, not to worry. The rehearsal schedule has not been that intensive, to be honest. Plus, we got a snow day on Sunday, and rehearsals canceled tomorrow just because a couple people couldn't make it. We're
Nice.
we're being pretty mellow about this, because the good news is we got in lots of rehearsals 5 years ago when we were supposed to put on this play the first time. So
Right.
just been playing catch up since then.
Oh my God! Yes, or so the rumor says. But no, none.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wait. That took 2 minutes. God,
Title drop.
Hey, you bring it out of me, Chris. You bring it out of
yeah,
me.
I'm honored.
This
Snazzy haircut, by the way. Looks real good.
Well, thank you. That's this play I'm in is set in 1989, so the usual 70s shag that I sport wouldn't really have fit. I'm going to have to shorten the sideburns, I'm afraid, also.
Oh, God.
Hasn't happened in a long while.
How is it that somehow you get a haircut and I'm letting it grow? I don't understand how that's
Apparently there's some kind of destiny bond between us here, Ian. It's our hair is a zero-sum game.
Clearly. Well, this episode is a long time coming. For the sake of comic timing, we are bringing back a previous naming nomenclature for an episode. Once upon a time, in a galaxy far, far away, there was a competitor to discount comic book service known as Heroes Corner. And they played nice to us, and they even had us list a bunch of reviews on their website and whatnot. And we would pick 3 books and do it once a month. And we'd call it the Review Corner. It would be us reviewing a book and talking about it. Well, we're reviving that long after Heroes Corner no longer exists, and neither does any sort of website at heroescorner.com. So that's how long ago this shit was.
Wow.
And we are reviving the Review Corner, and this will be for the much anticipated Radiant Black Volume 1, which consists of the first 6 issues of Radiant Black, a book that is equal parts, as I would describe it, Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle, Kyle Rayner Green Lantern, and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Yep. And Kyle Higgins created this as the writer, the artist, Marcelo Costa, and a bunch of other artists have come in as well. I believe David LaFuente was the artist for issue 6 of the first trade. And gentlemen, I'd love to get your take on your thoughts on these first 6 issues. Chris, I know it's one of your favorites, but Shane, I'll go to you first. Your thoughts on Volume 1 of Radiant Black.
So I love the title, Not So Secret Origin, which is of the trade that I have. I had a lot of fun. This is the first time I'm reading it. The art was good and solid. Dialogue was well done. I loved all the cast of characters that came in and out. I love the interaction with the parents for at least the first couple issues more than later issues. But I really, really enjoyed the whole experience. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would agree with that definitely. But before I get to my full thoughts, Murd, your thoughts on Radiant Black Volume 1?
Okay. Well, it's good, solid. Well, what I like to call meat and potatoes superheroics. It's, particularly the spacefaring hero variety, and good calls on all the previous superhero characters to whom you've likened this. Series. I would add the Rich Rider Nova to that list.
Yeah, good call.
Good call, Murd. Good call.
It reminds me in a couple different ways of like a Bronze Age Marvel superhero concept. Not least because it undergoes some rather sharp curves here and there, and it seems to retool itself a few times in the course of just the first 6 issues.
Yep.
This first 6 issues made me feel like I was reading 3 different comic books along the way, and Bronze Age Marvel series tended to shift in creative teams and focus rather rapidly in those days as well. So yeah, it's a superhero series that, at least in this little sampling that we get here in the first 6 issues, it doesn't veer too sharply away from tried and true superhero formulas. It doesn't really flaunt them or distend them too badly. Even the big curveball that we get in the 4th issue, which we will get to in much detail because we're going to spoil the hell out of this. Even that wasn't entirely unprecedented. There have been a couple of times in superhero history you can point to something like that happening. It's just all in the pacing and the presentation. Kyle Higgins writes a solid script here. You can tell that he's pouring a lot of himself into this. It's one of the most personal, and he himself has said it's one of the most personal and honest things he's ever written. So this is near and dear to his heart, and that comes through on the page. The visual design, the typographic design is all very strong. I like the suits that the superpowered characters wear, so thumbs up to Costa for that, and props to letterer Becca Carey and editor and designer Michael Busutil for putting together what is basic. Somebody had to invent a new alphabet for this series, so it was great additional fun for me, at least, to decode that, to come up with the like a personal Rosetta Stone for this. I'm sure there's a key or a chart somewhere that outlines which of the little symbols equals which English language letter, but I was able to figure out everything but VQJ on my own. So all those little, every time either Radiant Black or the giant alien robot with whom he converses occasionally, every time they switch into that alien alphabet, there it is.
Yep.
So that's in the back of the trade.
Yeah, I don't have the trade chain.
Okay.
I had to figure this out on my own. Thank you very much.
Boy, that is a great chore.
The master alien
That's
linguist, Adam
impressive.
Murdo.
Thank you.
I got to that page and I'm like,
Crypto-linguist,
man,
as
I
some
could
people
really
say.
do that, but someone has to have that online. So I'm just going to look it up later.
Somebody put me in touch with the Pentagon. They need a
Wow.
code breaker.
Yeah, right.
Oh, speaking of, though, and talking of differences between single issues and trades, did you guys get to read the Marshall's School of Business backup stories? Are they included in the trade?
I don't think so. No.
No, but I remember them from the singles though, Murd. Yeah, they're not in the
There's
trade.
a
Nope.
couple little 2-pagers in one of the issues. It's just like little gag strips of Marshall hanging out at the video store where he works and floating crackpot business ideas to his hapless customers.
I remember that. Yep.
Oh, that'd have been fun.
Yeah,
So, this is a series that I started picking up when it was first hitting the newsstands back in 2021. I slept on the 2nd issue, though. I had to settle for this 3rd printing of issue number 2.
Wow.
Gives you an idea of how well the series has done sales-wise in the early going. I think they're up to issue number 31 now. There were some problems with lateness along the way. But, yep, it's a good, solid space-fighting superhero thing. There's lots of solid characterization. It doesn't exactly reinvent the superhero wheel, but it does set it spinning in some interesting directions.
definitely.
No, and I agree, Adam. You said it doesn't reinvigorate the superhero wheel, and that's true. But it was fun the way they mashed a couple different properties, like Ian said, together, and I really enjoyed that because I mean I love Blue Beetle, so anything that even mimics that's gonna appeal to me right off the bat.
Oh, sure, yeah, and it's telltale that Kyle Higgins was a writer of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the comic book, for a while, and that DNA is definitely throughout what's happening here, not just in the colors of the different radiants, but also the general concept of heroes coming across different abilities and essentially morphing into those characters one way or the other. The only thing we don't get is a giant Megazord. That's
Not yet.
Not yet, exactly.
I was expecting Voltron to come out of it too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Chris, obviously you're the one who turned us on to this book in the first place. So I'll go ahead and ask you for your thoughts on these first 6 issues.
Thanks, brother. What's fun for me is that I hadn't read these since they came out in 2021. I mean, on the previous show, I was raving about this book all the time. And so it was a real treat to get back to them. And let me tell you, I enjoyed it even more reading it now than when I first read it. So what I really love about this book, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said about the art and the production value. It's just a top flight, no pun intended, superhero book. And at a time when I find the Marvel and DC characters, of course, we all love, but I've just grown weary. Part of it's my age as well, and just trying to follow everything. I just don't care that much anymore.
Yeah.
And it was really fun to get on this on the ground floor. And what really attracted to it both then and now is the writer. So I became a big Kyle Higgins fan when I read Cal, Volume 1, which we reviewed on the old show years ago, and then he did a wonderful noir in space called Hadrian's Wall.
I didn't hear that.
Very impressed with both those titles. So I was really keen to read this. And returning to it again, what I love the most, first of all, Marshall steals the book, basically.
Yeah.
Number one, in my opinion. But in addition to just that character, the Nathan character, and like you mentioned, Ian, Higgins said this is a very personal story. And I think that's what makes it so strong is that his struggles, like he's in that transitional phase, he's leaving his 20s. He had these dreams when he was younger that everybody does. What I really want to do, it's not really working out. He's in this nether realm, not sure where he's going. He doesn't want to give up his dreams fully, but he's also trying to sense that maybe this isn't going to work for me. And that's captured really well in the writing, his writer's block, him wasting time, just the struggles. The writing, I think that the strongest writing in the book is just the two main characters talking to each other about their lives, what's been going on, their different perspectives. It's so well done. But let me tell you, and Shane will appreciate this, and we'll talk about this more when we get there. But for me, the high watermark of the first 6 issues, besides issue 6, which I think is tremendous, but sitting down with his father, Shane, you can start crying at any time, and the conversation they have about what his son is doing with his life is so true and so well written. I remember when I first read this book, I was like, wow, this is better than what you get in a lot of superhero books. Like this is a very personal story. And as Murd mentioned, when you have the major pivot in issue 4, I remember the first time I was like, whoa. And Murd's right, there's plenty of precedent for that, of course, but it's still, I think, still very affecting, because the last thing I'll say in this introduction is that they do a wonderful job just in a few issues of delineating Nathan's personality versus Marshall's personality, how different they are, but yet how they have this very strong bond. Mm-hmm. But because of who they are as people and where they are in their lives, I mean, every scene in the video store is gold. There's a lot of great comedy in those scenes and just the references and great stuff. But it's great seeing each of these characters take on this mantle and then what they do with it and who they are as people, their insecurities and whatever or in the case of Marshall, his, perhaps his illusions, really feed how they deal with becoming one of the Radiants. So I love this book, and it was a thrill to read it again.
So I think one of the things that works so well about this book is definitely how grounded it is, and how well the characters are built out. I do agree that as well that the family aspect of it all is better than 3/4 of the sitcoms that have been out there in the past years as well. Like, these actually feel like fully realized characters.
They do.
And Nathan's failure in LA and coming back home and not wanting to admit it to his parents, while at the same time his dad clearly understands that is 100% why he's there. And well, if you're going to live with us,
you gotta work.
You gotta work.
Yeah.
You gotta put the time in. You gotta put the effort in, and you gotta do it. Works really, really well. The other thing that I appreciate about this book, as a fan of Invincible, is it is a yet another volume 1 where you think it's going in one direction. And I if I had been spoiled about this, it was a while ago and I'd completely forgotten about it. So when I got to that issue 4 and we get the big reveal, I'm going to keep it spoiler until we actually get into spoiler talk. But it completely floored me, and it was just the exact way I felt when you got to that specific issue of Invincible with Invincible's father and what was actually really happening in the series, and that was. It would have been a good series on its as the way it was going. It's an even better series where it's going next, because did not see that shift occurring, and it just continues the story forward in so many new and unique ways. Plus, the introduction of quote unquote rest of the Power Rangers along the way. Radiant Red, Radiant Red, Radiant Yellow, Radiant Purple. Like they're all such different characters that have been chosen by their specific host, where I don't know where that's going either. So great first 6 issues to start off a story and really make you want to learn more about what you're getting into here. So Higgins just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
So that's a great point in terms of whetting your appetite with these first 6 issues, because when the Red Radiant appears, I mean, okay, standard villain, and then as you move on, like, wait a minute, I love nuance, because that they're going to reveal there's a lot more to that character than we were led to believe just sort of on a surface level. So I think the whole book works in that it never forgets, and this is I think this is at the core of all great superhero comics. It never forgets the humanity of the characters and the complexity. For example, in the first issue, the scene where he's on the phone trying to get a loan.
Oh yes, the opening scene of the whole series.
Yeah, and the writing is so good in terms of, look, I was a business owner. I dealt with debts and things and loans of different things over the years. And that conversation is so true, except for, I don't know any credit card that allows you to have a $38,000 limit on it, especially if you're a 30-year-old with probably not great credit. But that's just a story.
You probably would have been visited at your home by agents of the institution.
Yeah.
But he consolidated his debt. But anyway, what did you guys think? I thought that scene was so affecting, just him on the phone, and then he's breaking down in the car. He's got some Uber type job, and you just feel like
you feel like, bad.
Where's my life going? It was so well.
You want to help him.
The very first image of the whole series, just setting the tone for the whole thing, is just this relatively static image of the poor guy's smartphone. They're mounted on the dashboard of his driver, rideshare app car, displaying in graphic terms, just bottom line of his financial situation. It's like Higgins is setting out right from the get-go to establish, if this is superhero escapism, he wants to establish right away exactly what kind of specific ills from which this fantasy form was designed to facilitate escapism. And that being, of course, economic hardship, crippling debt, frustrated self-sufficiency, the very things that a whole generation of people who don't expect to do better than their parents, a whole generation who feels like their goals and their dreams are suspended out there just beyond their means, dangled in front of them. This is a story for millennials in their late 20s.
Yes.
I have it in my notes. It's your classic, like, Marvel-style hard luck teen hero trope, except it's been set forward in time to the 20s, because you've often heard, 40 is the new 30, 50 is the new 40. Well, 20s are the new adolescence, and so this is that hard luck teen hero, but it's the kind of hard luck that people in their 20s are experiencing. And Higgins is coming right out and saying, this is a superhero that empowers people of that age group and those specific economic circumstances. And that scene sets it all out for you right from the start.
Absolutely. And then also, realizing that, there is no book contract. There is no book. There is no
he's barely written anything.
For 4 years.
For 4 years.
Yeah. I also really appreciated the breakdown of, short story to long, and trying to figure out exactly what he would be able to work with his existing writings. I think that was actually probably the best behind the scenes of how to make a comic book.
Yeah, showing the process like that. Yep.
Right.
The frustration inherent to it.
Higgins going inside the writer's studio, which is another way that this is a personal project for him.
Sure. Yeah,
and to piggyback on Murd's wonderful observation, I think this also captured the fact that you turn around and you go, wait a minute, what did I do with all this time? Like, how many people in our society had, when they were younger, okay, they had like my dream job, dream career that, besides just making money, will actually make me happy. How many people have that? Very few. And, he's trying to achieve that. He wants to make a living as a writer. And he turns around and 4 years is gone. And how many times in all our lives do we go, wait, what did I just do with this time? Like,
either it's a day, a week, a month,
exactly.
years. Yeah.
I mean, it's really easy to waste time. So especially in the society we live in now. So I thought that first issue, like when he's talking to Marshall, because he said he's on a totally different wavelength, Marshall, totally different, expectations, a different view on what his life is all about. And that conversation between the two of them, again, the writing in this, when it comes to the interpersonal relationship, is some of the best I've seen in comics in terms of new books in quite some time. It's really true to life. So well done.
In some ways, it almost rivals Strangers in Paradise in the connection that they have between the characters and how they're written.
Well, and to bring the comparison back to Invincible a little bit too, I immediately thought of interactions between Mark and his best friend in that book, where it takes an extra level of understanding your specific characters to actually make side characters fully realize, and not just an ends to a means. Not just a, oh, hey, are you going to leave and go to the store today type of character. It's like, no, they have to have a personality, and it has to be established. Marshall's personality is that best friend who never left his hometown because he had no idea what to do with his life.
Yeah.
And that it's immediately established. Like, when Nathan gets back home, what has Marshall been doing since Nathan left? Exactly.
Waiting for Nathan to come back, apparently.
It's basically the case. Yeah. And now, Murd, I wish I had those side stories that you mentioned of
they're funny. They're very funny. I remember that.
I'll have to track those.
You have to look them up.
Yeah, because it feels like that just fleshes the character out even more.
Oh, another good reason to have the single issues is in issue number 1 here. Higgins has a whole 2-page writerly editorial where he talks about his background in Power Rangers fandom.
Oh, wow.
And how that, among other things, informed his writing of this story. How he suffered for his love of that franchise, that show, those characters as a young man. And it's you can sort of see how suffering for humiliation and want for one's loves filters down into Nathan as a character here, even though he's not a Power Rangers fan per se. He's still going through something analogous to what Higgins went through. So this is the stuff you get when you buy the single issues, folks.
Yes. and to go on a slight bit of a rant here, why the hell wouldn't you include stuff like that in a trade?
I agree.
It feels like they put all the variant covers in the back of the trade, and they put
fine.
Maybe Ian, because they wanted to keep it $10. Just a guess on my part.
I guess, but also take out the variant covers and put in the essay.
If you're talking to the right people, which I think you are. You read this and you go, oh, well, that was good. And then you find out there's other stuff and you see a different version or a hardback or something. And that has it like, oh, well, I did get this for just $10. I can get the other one because it's got more stuff. And whoop, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
It happens.
I have 4 volumes of Radium Plaque at this point. I mean, now that I read Volume 1, I mean, I had it before I even read Volume 1 because of your recommendation, Chris, and I got it at the past couple of New York Comic Cons. Some from Kyle Higgins' table, and others from other people around the floor, just because the price was right. But I just wish that everything was included. And I'm sure in the deluxe hardcover, they probably do include all this stuff.
I would think.
Because that is also available, which covers the 12 issue span rather than the 6 issue span, and $45 rather than $10 for the first volume. So go figure. Let's talk a little bit about issue 4. This is when spoilers will occur, and any of you people who haven't read it, which, by the way, if you're listening to this, read it. Just please read the 6 issues. It's kind of the thing here if we're going to be talking about the book. Anyway, big spoiler, issue 4. The character that we thought we were going to be following this entire time, Nathan Burnett, gets into an altercation with Radiant Red, winds up saving the crumbling building that they were fighting in, immediately makes him better than Henry Cavill's Superman in the Zack Snyder movies. And this has been your comic timing moment. Ba-na-na-na. All right. And then in the process, because all issue we've been getting, I am bonded with you. I am with you until your death. I am with you until your death. And then
he's figuring it out. He's getting settled. He's starting to write.
Yep.
He's wanting to increase his abilities for the future.
Yeah, all this stuff like, oh, he's figuring it out. We get our Starman moment where where basically the character that we thought we would be following this entire time is not that character, and now Radiant Black is Marshall.
I thought for sure the suit would protect him.
Yeah,
that it would just, and you would be good. I was floored when I got to that page. I'm like, wait, he's in a coma? Son of a gun! That's not where I was going.
What makes it so effective, besides just the great story pivot, is that Marshall's reaction,
gut-wrenching.
The near death of his. I mean, he's virtually dead, but of Nathan is gut-wrenching, like you said, and it really emphasizes how close they are and how much Nathan means to Marshall. Because as you guys noted, Marshall, I mean, there's really not much going on in his life. I mean, the scenes in the I think it's called, what's the store called? Real something.
Real World.
Real World, REL. Like when the guy's asking Sophie's Choice or Ordinary People, two very dark and bleak films.
Real Sophie's Choice of awful.
It's one of the funniest scenes in the whole book, actually. But like that's his life. And I mean, I worked at video stores in college, and you would actually have conversations like that to some degree with customers.
Sure.
But that's all that Marshall has.
Yeah.
So, and there's a great moment a little bit earlier where they talk about, well, what would you do if you had the suit? Between Nathan and Marshall, I don't remember exactly. But
foreshadowing. It's foreshadowing.
Exactly, Murd. And but you're so also invested in Nathan and his struggles because he's so well realized at the point that you're just floored when he's basically killed.
Yeah.
I don't think it will happen. Those who have read it would know, but I don't think it will happen. But I would like, just for my own selfishness, if Marshall continues that in his head when he's in the what's the other space called when he's asleep? They're talking to the big rub, the existence.
Yeah.
That when they're in the, I kind of like to see the first guy. Oh my God, I just forgot his name. Nathan, come and talk to Marshall. It's okay. Like from the afterlife.
Talking with David moment, in other words.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
I mean, which is possible, but also, I mean, where we are here. I mean, again, I don't want the spoilers. I'll read it myself and I'll find out. But we've been told that Nathan is on life support. That he was found. What was it, 6 minutes?
6 minutes. 6 minutes. Yep.
6 minutes after. So they're not sure about brain activity, and we don't know either. But is that the end for Nathan? Tune in and find out, your heroes, and we'll know one way or the other. I mean, for all we know, we could wind up with a firestorm situation where either one of them is Radiant Black at a particular time. So that's also down the road. And Chris, I don't want to know, so don't tell me.
Well, I'm not going to say a word, but one thing I will admit, and this just happens sometimes as a comic reader. I read this book religiously the first couple of years, and for some reason, I don't remember why, I fell off it. So it
started to come out late. That might have been something.
That may have been a factor too. So I've read through, let's say, the equivalent of the first 3 trades.
Okay.
So I have to catch up too, because I think there's at least 5 trades out now, maybe even 6.
I think you might be right about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go back and read this from the beginning because I so enjoyed these 6, and I dimly remember what happened after, but not in detail. So, but I won't say a word.
Radiant Black Volume 6 was just released actually 21 days ago on,
So that's 6 volumes.
January 1st, 2025. Volume 6 came out. So
Nice.
that is currently what we are up to, and I'm pretty sure I own the first 4. So once I'm done with those, I'll get myself Volume 5 and Volume 6. I've already started on the regular trade paperbacks. I'm not going to sell them to get the hardcovers. Even if that's how I did Invincible, that's not how I'm going to do Radiant Black, I've decided. So. But let's talk about the other Radiants a little bit as well. Obviously, the first one that we're introduced to is Radiant Red. And the idea that we have of Radiant Red is not necessarily who Radiant Red is. We then find out in issue 6. But when we get the line, I'd say you're pretty one of a kind in that first, when Radiant Black first gets powers, and then that's the final page as we see Radiant Red walking away with bags of cash. Like, oh crap, there's clearly a villainous Radiant out there, one way or the other.
And I just assumed it would be the villain the whole time.
Exactly. Yep. And I assumed it would be a guy. Just from the way that the character was initially drawn, and lo and behold, it's a lot more complicated, and it's a woman.
I have to say that reveal did not surprise me in the slightest.
Okay,
that's one of the tropiest moments in these 6 issues, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah. Well, I knew that there would be more than meets the eye for Radiant Red, and there would have to be some sort of story behind it. I also do like how essentially they buck the trend of not every single one of these Power Rangers is correlating to the colors or the people behind them in Power Rangers themselves. Like the Asian character is not the Yellow Ranger. Thank you. The black character is not the Black Ranger. Like, thank you very much for bucking the Saban trend, at least in that much. But that 6th issue where we do learn more about exactly, who Radiant Red is, it's an excellent issue of a story.
And the art is gorgeous in it too.
I just thought it was a less intense times past tale.
Yeah.
Yep. Good way of putting it. Yep.
The art switch is beautiful. It has a bit of a manga feel to it. The way the characters are expressed. She's Japanese.
Yep.
If I may, I thought what was so powerful about the 6th issue was her husband has a gambling addiction.
Yeah.
And that she is trapped by that addiction. And let me tell you, because this kind of thing happens in real life with addiction. When she looks at her graduate school fund, that is absolutely devastating.
Mm-hmm.
Devastating. And you're like, what is this person going to do? Like, is she going to stay with this guy? And then, she clearly still wants to do it. So she decides to use these powers for, as she said, I handle it. The last panel. What do you guys think of the art in issue 6?
I loved it.
I thought it was lovely. Yeah,
I'm a huge fan.
Very well done.
I'm a huge fan of Lafuente to begin with. So this was going to be right up my alley for that. And now knowing that David Lafuente is one of the creators involved with the Radiant Red spinoff makes me want to read that as well. Just to see what we're going to get out of it. But yeah, no, I've been a fan of Lafuente stuff since the Ultimate line, so this was right up my alley. And I wanted a different artist for Red's story because that just makes it that much more distinct.
So, different character, different feel.
Yeah.
And again, going back to the power of the dialogue with her husband, especially when she uncovers what his addiction led him to do, it's really raw and really well written. This is top flight writing in a comic book.
You're reading it, and as you read it, you're uncomfortable reading it.
Oh God, yeah.
Because to kind of be in that room is what you feel. It's not a nice situation.
No, especially when he tries to deflect and make it seem like it's not completely his fault. And then it's terrible because he's an addict, and then he breaks down, basically begging her not to go. It's again, this is the kind of stuff that I think elevates this book for me as a reader of it, where it's the superhero stuff is great. The art is beautiful. I mean, the costumes, like you guys said, the design sense is wonderful, but it's the people, right? And what they're going through that make you want to come back for more, essentially.
Yeah. At least at this point with these 6 issues, the superhero side is the backdrop, and the characters are what's important about them.
Good point.
Which honestly, that's what makes a good superhero story. Like you could have action, you could have adventure. That's perfectly fine. But if you don't actually have a backbone for it, then you're going to get bored after issue 3, and you're going to go read something else. Like if it's just people hitting people, like what the hell's what's going to keep you coming to it? That's it. There has to be a hook, there has to be a line, there has to be a sinker, and this has that in spades. I think what was so great about that first issue too is that that 6th issue too was the scene at the dinner table, and just the setup of like everything's great, nice, happy family.
Well, they're performing for their parents, basically.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then when we get to the reveal that he's been gambling again, and that it's way worse than even he would have wanted to admit. Like I agree, Chris, that scene with the with the bank account, and also specifically, she went out of her way we have 2 scenes with loans in this book,
Yeah.
And this one is way worse because this is thinking you have something and then finding out you have nothing. As collateral is just soul crushing. And then she quote unquote takes care of it. She winds up with the red powers and immediately goes and robs a bank with it. And, clearly everything's fine from there.
And also the added indignity of that slimy carnivorous bank manager with his massive grin.
Yeah.
Just the stand-in for everything we many of us currently despise about our society. Just as insult to injury. And the look on her face, again, the art in that middle panel when she sees the zero balance.
Yeah. Oh, it's devastating.
It really is. It really and truly is. Going back a couple of, a little bit before that, back to issue 5, and when Marshall goes on the hunt essentially for Red and comes this close to doing something that he will regret for the rest of his life, which is taking that step that you cannot go past, not just as a person, not just as a hero, but just period, which is taking a life. He's so angry at what happened with Nathan that he's that close, and then luckily that's not the way it goes. And we get the reveal with the other Radiants, with Yellow and and Pink, showing up just in time essentially, to kind of diffuse things, and then we get our actual big baddie, which cool design. I really dig it. It's very spacey as well.
It's like he's almost like he's vibrating in and out of the reality that they're in.
It is a cool design. The only problem I have with it is the fact that it reminded me of Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Ha!
And I'm like, that's what took me out of it. It's a great design, and it looks effective and fabulous and sagey, but in the back of my head I went, oh, they look like they're vibrating. That's probably Ghost.
If it makes you feel better, Shane, the Ghost is actually originated in Iron Man in the 1980s. So
I'm sure yeah, and that's fine.
around a while.
I'm glad we got the big baddie revealed.
Well, what's interesting also in those scenes where he goes into that cosmic world, so you're riveted by, okay, where is this going? Mm-hmm. What is the connection between these humans and whatever this entity is that is empowering them? Again, stay tuned, but really fascinating.
Well, what I find the most interesting also about that room is after the merge with Marshall, that the Radiant, or whatever you want to call it, is saying that they were able to merge that much faster than what was with Nathan. Like almost like I found my true host.
Yeah, like Marshall's more the appropriate host for the power. Yep.
Notice he doesn't have the same learning curve as far as learning how to use powers that Nathan did. He's just able to take right off on his little vengeance tear against Red.
And he was trying to actively help Nathan understand how to use his powers, including with the back to the viewer's Nightwing figure, which was fantastic because Higgins wrote Nightwing originally.
Yeah.
That was a nice touch, but
also the difference with Marshall is when he grabbed the dot, he was already at a heightened emotional state, which may have just catapulted him in the bonding side of things,
which is possible also. But if you look back on it, Nathan just happened to reach out first.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, totally.
They were both there. So
Nathan was just the more sober and grabbed it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, if Marshall had a couple less that night, then then things could
none of this would have happened.
Yeah, not none of this would have happened. Things would have certainly turned out very differently, one way or the other.
Yeah. Also, I have in my notes here that this kind of reminds me of a classic what if story.
Yeah.
What if supporting character X had become superhero Y? What if Flash Thompson had been bitten by the radioactive spider, for example?
Yeah.
So that's basically what we're getting here, except it's the main storyline.
Yeah. I did like through issue 4 with Red and the building that even at that moment you got a little hint of, or maybe it was in issue 5, you got a hint of where she says, well, I just wanted to scare him. So you get that little bit of, well, maybe she's not as villainous as what you as the reader would think. I just like that little addition to it.
Yeah. And also, I think you guys mentioned this before about Marshall using the powers versus Nathan. Marshall figured out, okay, when he's trying to sort of train Nathan, if you bring your emotion into it, you seem to generate more power. And as you guys noted, Marshall's emotional right from the get-go because his friend has basically died in front of him. So he has all this emotion to power, the immense, blast he's emitting and so forth. So you really get the sense that, if the battle continued, Red was toast, considering what he was bringing to the table at that point.
One thing we haven't touched on yet is how it appears that each Radiant has their own power set. That it's not necessarily the same power for everybody, which does also make it that much more distinct than say like a Power Rangers, where really the only real difference between the Power Rangers is what weapons they have. Other than that, and their Zord, being a different dinosaur or whatever, they're basically all the same. They have super strength, and they have some sort of blaster. That's about it. Clearly Radiant Black has the gravity. Oh, hey, gravity. Haven't thought of that in a while. Anyway, has the gravity powers here. Radiant Red has matter absorption and can also then blast matter back out as part of Radiant Black's abilities. Clearly, there's also blasts that can come out of the hands. There's flying and all that jazz, but because of the way this is introduced, we haven't really gotten to see what Yellow and Pink bring to the table yet. And I honestly can't wait to see just how what powers they're sporting and what their Radiant has brought upon them one way or the other. So more stuff to come. Yep. And for that matter, like I said, I very much look forward to reading more of this. I knew that was going to be the case. I didn't think I'd be trading in my trades or anything like that. But
no, Ian, you're not going to be disappointed.
It's an adventure, and it's also the type of thing that I could very easily wind up seeing become either a movie franchise or a animated franchise. In fact, I'd rather it be an animated franchise similar to Invincible.
Yeah. Oh, I would too.
I'm surprised it hasn't already.
Yeah.
As I'm leafing through, I also want to bring up I really enjoyed how they used the 2 police officers. And go ahead, Murd. You want to expound on that?
Oh, sure. That's I picked up on that too, Chris. It's a defining characteristic of any superhero strip, how the central character interacts with the conventional authorities. And here we've got these 2 small-town local police officers who figure out the protagonist's secret identity almost instantly, and they kind of lean on him a little bit, but they don't threaten him to stop. Instead, they seem to be kind of strong-arming him, or even blackmailing him, no pun intended, into turning hero, into actually using these powers of his to go out and help them do their jobs. which for a little bit he does appear to do.
Which I thought was an interesting twist on, as Murd said, on that typical convention of, okay, how do they deal with the police?
Yeah.
Spider-Man's often being hunted by them. They always think he committed crimes he didn't do, things like that. This is like, we need your help. Come and support us, basically. Plus, he saved their lives. So,
but also come and support us selfishly so you can help us get promoted.
Yeah.
There's just the other side of that too.
Yeah.
The conclusion.
Not hunting them.
They're often is Shane. Yep.
Yeah.
It's
do we see these two police officers in the future, Chris?
I don't recall, honestly. It's been that long.
Okay.
I'm going to go back almost rediscovering these as Ian discovers them for the first time.
Well, what I do like about it though is that it does turn the trope of we're going to blackmail you or else we're going to reveal your secret identity on a whole other bent. It's like, yeah, of course they know who he is. They saw enough of it, but but they don't care about revealing him or anything like that. All they care about is being police one way or the other, and he's certainly going to make life easier, like you said, to make that happen. So, not going to be on the news or anything like that with his name reveal or anything.
What was our take on Costa's art in issues 1 through 5? I thought it was wonderful.
I thought it was wonderful. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, it's clean, crisp superhero art, and that's
which is it's got that sheen, which I think is perfect for this type of world we're investing in here.
Yeah.
Well, and sheen, it does not mean shiny for the actual design of the book.
Yeah.
As I'm reading the trade, I will say I love the feel of the cover, the lightweightness of the paper. It doesn't feel like newsprint, but it's also not that shiny paper that DC and Marvel tend to use, which I almost can't stand at times. This had a really nice feel to it and very easy to read under any light.
Shane, as I'm looking at, I love what you promote. Well done. As I'm looking at these, I just turned to the father making him the oatmeal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the father is so well delineated in this story. Like I know this guy. Like he is
like a suburban Pa Kent.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well put, Murd. He's really well written.
And so here's a very recent relevant thing about this. So I had some laundry to do yesterday, and I go down to do it, and there's my youngest son's laundry in the dryer, totally packed. And he said, just put it on top. I'll get to it later. So I get it out. I put my laundry in, but I fold all his. And I take it up to him a little bit later, and he goes, well, why did you? I said I would get it tomorrow. I'm like, I know. I said, but here's the thing. Here's the thing, Matt. My dad would have done this for me when he could, and I will do it for you when I can. Mm-hmm. And that's all there is to it. It only took me a few minutes. It didn't bother me. Yeah, I'd like it if you would have done it, but it's okay. You were doing something else, and I had a minute to do it. So, if this is all I can help you with today, then this is what I can do.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, you just had your Shane father-son moment for this episode.
Yeah.
If you want to, Norman Rockwell doesn't live in Shane's house, I can assure you, but that wonderful atmosphere is there.
Now the godmother was that Marshall's mother in the hospital?
I forgot about that.
I would think maybe, but I don't know. It didn't.
He didn't even acknowledge.
I don't think
that
they don't
was
clarify.
Yeah,
right?
they didn't say anything. It wasn't like Marshall ran up and said "Mom" or anything like that.
They didn't seem particularly happy that she was there.
No,
they
correctly.
They didn't. Which makes me wonder if that character is going to wind up coming up in one form or another. Later down the road. Yeah,
seems likely.
Well, I actually first thought maybe she was the one that encouraged him to go right, which started this whole process.
Yeah.
You guys realize that we never even learned Marshall's last name in the course of these 6 issues.
True,
Suddenly he's the main character, and we don't know his last name.
He's Penny.
In fact, let me just hold up another one of my single issues here. On the cover of number 5, there's like little hints to Marshall's backstory, little moments from his past, and that's more background that we get on this particular character than in the text of all 6 issues put together.
Let me get that cover for Radiant Black number 5 up here on the screen for everybody to see. But yeah, that's a really good point. And I think it's also very telling about the character of Marshall that it doesn't really seem like he has anybody outside of Nathan.
No, not thus far. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, looking here and seeing exactly what you're talking about, these glimpses of past, and I feel like everybody
he's being arrested in one scene there.
Yeah, everybody has that one friend. Everybody has that one friend. I feel like everybody has that one friend where they're at their house more than they're at their own for one reason.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And Marshall definitely feels like that is the situation here in his life. And obviously now that he's Radiant Black, we're gonna have to learn more one way or the other about his life. So I look forward to seeing exactly what the hell happened to him and what led him to be in this current state. So,
and if something really does happen to Nathan, I'd like to see Marshall check in with his parents now and then. I don't know what circumstances that would warrant, but again, selfishly, sapidly, that would be what I'd like to see.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, clearly he grew up around the house, so it's not like he doesn't have some sort of emotional attachment to them one way or the other. So it would certainly be within his own character and personality to do that, at least from what we found so far.
Now, it would be a little convenient if he lost his parents and hung out there because of that, and now he's just going to adopt them as his own parent. Yeah, that's a little bit tropey if you're going down that path. But
it's super funny that you said it exactly like that, Shane, because I learned a couple of stuff about other media for Radiant Black.
Really?
There is an animated short film on YouTube called Versus about a fight between the characters Radiant Black and Blaze of Cal that was released on YouTube back on June 22nd, 2022.
Well, that's a good day.
Yeah. It was written by nice. Yeah. Nicely done, Shane. Nicely done. I wonder.
Sadly, that was my 50th birthday, so I was laid up in bed with kidney stones. But hey, it's a good day.
It's a doubly good day because it's also my wedding anniversary.
That's right.
There you go. The film was written by Kyle Higgins and Alex Siegel, animated by Tiger Animation, and features the voices of Will Friedle as Radiant Black.
Perfect. That fits. Yeah.
Reginald James, Rick Kramer, and David Sobolov. Now that's one of them. The other is that there's also a Radiant Black audiobook.
Really?
Yes. And I'm bringing it up right now. This is Radiant.
In addition to the comics, it's an original piece.
I believe it's an adaptation of volume 1, I believe.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. And it features the voices of Ryder Strong. That's why I made that comment about the kid being adopted by the family, because that's absolutely what happened to Sean on Boy Meets World.
Yeah, totally.
Ryder Strong as Nathan, Will Friedle as Marshall, Kim Rhodes as Mrs. Burnett, Lauren Lester as Mr. Burnett, Todd Stashwick as 001. That's the name of the villain that we get introduced to, and then Melissa Navia as Radiant Pink, and Yatko as Radiant Red, and Troy Baker as Shift. So
look these up.
Yep, this is brand spanking new from the looks of it, and it may not even be out yet, to be honest with you. But I found out about this, and immediately I was like, oh my god. That's perfect casting, getting the Boy Meets World guys involved with Radiant Black one way.
I've come across YouTube and I've gone down a rabbit hole of watching clips from Girl Meets World where Sean comes back into the fold, and his story throughout that show. Then I always liked him in Boy Meets World, but he wasn't my favorite character. But in Girl Meets World, he's one of my favorite characters. And I haven't even watched the whole show, just these little clips of him in it.
Yeah.
Fabulous character.
They're also doing a podcast where they rewatch. They rewatch Boy Meets World, and they also have a bunch of guests on and stuff like that. And it's Topanga, Sean, and Will Friedle's character.
Yeah.
Suddenly,
what the heck was his brother's name? Yeah, I can't remember his older brother's name.
But Corey's
Eric.
brother, Eric. Thank you, Eric. All on the podcast together with rotating guests. There's also a No One in-universe scripted podcast series starring Rachel Lee Cook, Patton Oswalt, Todd Stashwick, Yuri Lowenthal, and a bunch of others.
Wow.
and no one is in the Massiveverse. So this is another, inside of Massiveverse, other media that is available in one form or another. So,
and actually, Ian, I'm glad you brought up the Massiveverse, because we should tell listeners that they've created a whole universe now around this story, which is called the Massiveverse. They've done some, I haven't read them yet, but they've done some, I think some one shots, some crossovers, different things like that. So they're actively expanding this world, which is exciting as a reader.
Absolutely, yeah. And Radiant Red got a full 5-issue miniseries with art by David Lafuente, as I mentioned. Cherish Chen was the writer behind that. And there's also Radiant Pink by Megan Camarena and Melissa Flores, with artwork by the one and only Emma Kubert. And there's also Cal, as we mentioned, with Higgins. The latest one that just came out was 1964. No One is co-written by Higgins and Bucoletto, with Geraldo Borges on the artwork for that. And then there's Rogue Sun, The Dead Lucky, and Inferno Girl Red are the other ones that have come out. And there have been a couple of super massive one-shots, as you mentioned, Chris, that have come out in other forms. So,
and I just want to praise Hal just quickly again. We've talked about it over the years, but that is such a smart book, because it's talking about the politics of a superhero labor union in the early to mid 1960s. And if you like Higgins' writing on Radiant Black, if you want to see something that's very different and in many ways, because of the subject matter, more sophisticated, I can't recommend Cal enough. I haven't finished 64 yet. I think I haven't read the last issue, but that's a great book.
Wow, there are 64 issues of that.
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The second miniseries is called Cal 64, as in 1964. No,
I've heard the book, but I'm like, how did I miss 60 some issues?
Sorry, I misspoke. But that if you love superheroes, but you want to sort of read them in a different light, that's sort of more rooted in the nuts and bolts sort of reality of a political landscape, that's a really good book.
Okay,
it's a testament to how good a writer Kyle Higgins is.
And what I like about tying that into the Massiveverse is that it shows us that superheroes have been a thing and continue to be a thing in this world. That that the Radiants are not the first appearance of super beings in this particular reality. What I also love is that at one point in one of the bars, if I remember correctly, on the screen is Savage Dragon, and I'm thinking in my head that I really hope that's a TV series, because I want it to be a situation like Earth 1, Earth 2, where like they existed in either in television or comic book form, but they're another universe. Just to tie it further into Image lore and whatnot. So that
the first night they go to the bar, he's in the background.
Yep. So I don't think that they're saying that he's in the same world, but I sure as hell want it to be a Flash and Flash situation. That'd be pretty cool to have a crossover between Radiant Black and Savage Dragon through a time hole or something like that at some point.
Both of them racing to save the same person from different sides of a wall. Yes.
Yep.
I see it now.
Absolutely. And I know that there have been alternate covers that put both Spawn and Radiant Black on the same cover, but I don't think there's been any actual official crossovers between the two characters yet that I'm aware of. Is everyone interested, as I am, to read more of this sucker now that we've read the 6 issues?
Oh, I got to go back to it. Absolutely.
Yeah, more than I thought I would. I thought this would just be a one-off. I'd probably enjoy it, and then that would be it. But no, it was kind of curious what happens next.
Yeah. Yep. I'm absolutely there. I don't think I have anything doing the rest of the night, so I may very well wind up just crashing volume 2 and going to town. We shall see. But it really is such a revolutionary time for Image Comics.
Oh.
We say this so often, that they are the publisher that does everything. And it just proves it time and time again. And I'm just so happy that they've evolved and gone past the original 1993 version that they were to become something so unique and different than every other independent publisher out there. So
well, it's funny you mentioned that, Ian, because when you were talking before about the flat rote superhero comic that doesn't do enough with the human foundation. To me, the early Image is like that.
Oh yeah.
Frankly, because a lot of those guys really weren't very good writers, quite honestly. But over the years, as they brought in all this talent, and they have all the creator owned stuff. I mean, we've been saying this for years. I mean, Image to me is the most exciting publisher of all the bigger publishers on the stands, because it's the sheer breadth and variety of genres they take on, but also how a lot of the books are really outstanding. I mean, they're well worth checking out. And there's really something for everyone. I think about how, when you go back to the golden age of comics, and if you look at old photographs of like newsstands in the 30s and 40s, and even the 50s, the Atom Age, you had romance, war, crime, superheroes, westerns, romance. It was all there, and I think Image is very much in keeping with that tradition. It's wonderful to be a reader of that.
Yep. Yeah, no question about it. One more thing I wanted to bring up about Radiant Black that I appreciate is that, and I may have mentioned this in passing, that each of the Radiants is a different age as well.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
That way, we're not just sticking with one generation of people here. It's like clearly everybody is unique and different. Pink seems to be the youngest. Yellow is definitely the oldest. Red is somewhere in the middle, and Black is also. It seems to be like in early 30s thereabouts.
Yeah, Yellow is like Shane and I is like a Gen Xer. I think is my guess.
Yep.
And Murd was made such a wonderful, astute observation before about. This is the superhero book for millennials and maybe Gen Z, and that, and I think Marshall's the epitome of that in some ways. Like, where's he going in his life? What does he have? What can he look forward to? Like, what are the opportunities out there that he might seize? And Nathan is struggling with his own version of that as well. Great point, Murd. I think that really anchors the whole book, essentially.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Well, I am very, very glad that we got to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that that it's about damn time that we get to a full book review. I have no idea who was supposed to have the next pick in one way or the other. Either. But I am going to nominate. I'm going to nominate you, Murd, as our next pick, one way or the other.
Terrific.
So obviously this was an independent. If you want to throw a Marvel or DC our way or anything of the sort, by all means, it's your oyster, my friend. Whatever you feel like doing, we can definitely wind up tracking down and making the magic happen. So
sky's the limit.
Mm-hmm. I look forward to any Murd selection.
Yep.
All right. I have to make some lists, sift through my resources.
And speaking of Image Comics, by the way, just piggybacking off of that and back towards the comic book world real quick, as an addendum to a previous conversation that Murd, Chris, and I had on Diamond State, it was officially announced that Image Comics is no longer doing any business whatsoever with Diamond. So there was basically sub distribution going on where even though Image was with Lunar was then distributing to Diamond so that Diamond could distribute to other stores. And that is now no longer happening. As of, I think last week, that was officially the last cutoff, and they don't want to touch Diamond anymore. So Image is now officially Lunar, and now you will no longer have that double solicitation in the Diamond and the Image book, because it's just going to be Image book or nothing. So strange times we live in.
Yeah.
Yep, just one less place to get your comics, but they had it coming. Oh boy! All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Tonic for the spirit.
Glad we finally got this on the books.
Yeah, I'm glad we did it.
Yep, absolutely. And Shane, always a pleasure, and we'll definitely talk soon, especially because you have a retro movie that you have for us to watch.
Yes. I have chosen it with some deliberation with my fellow fiends here that we're going to review Night of the Comet from, what was it, 1984?
Yes.
It's one of my favorite B-grade kind of sci-fi weird movies. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Shane, I'm excited because I've never seen it. I never heard of it before you brought it up. So I'm looking forward to it.
At one point,
B-grade movie is a good way to describe it.
Oh, it's totally
very amused
B-grade.
by it, Chris. I guarantee.
Oh,
Yeah, there's known actors in it, and I'm amazed they did this, even though it was done back in the 80s. It still surprises me. But yeah, the day I figured out that Chakotay was in it, the actor who plays Chakotay from Voyager, I was like, I should have realized that a little bit sooner for how much I've watched this movie, but I did not.
I'm sure he was a very young man in that film.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep. And for anybody looking to play along with us, this is available for free on Tubi. I think it's also on Pluto TV. And if I looked correctly, you can get a $5 copy on Vudu if you do the DVD UPC workaround. So I will probably be watching it that way because I don't like commercials. But if that doesn't,
I don't either.
I will resort to Tubi as a last resort. So
yeah, and I I'm selfish. I like a digital copy. I want to take it with me whenever I care to.
Oh my God. Yep. Absolutely. All right. So that is about that for that. Stay tuned for further information regarding how we're going to wind up doing a best of this year. I'm going to be putting it out there to patrons first to see whether or not they like the way that I think I'm going to wind up doing it. But it will definitely be a convergence of blue team and gold team, as Brent Cassina and Brandon Christopher and Rav Suhu will probably want in on that action one way or the other. Hopefully Chris Naudis as well. So we'll figure out one way or the other. Yep.
It's going to be a fun collision of worlds.
Indeed.
Indeed. Worlds will live.
Oh,
just worlds will live. That's.
I was thinking when worlds collide.
All right, and with that, that is that. So the email address for Comic Timing is comictiming@gmail.com. You can find us over at facebook.com/comic timing. And you can also find the Comic Timing Facebook fan group there as well. Please make sure to join it up if you have not already done so. We've got some good conversations going on there, and we would like you to be a part of it. We are also on Blue Sky as Comic Timing. We're on Instagram as Comic Timing Podcast, and we're also on Threads as Comic Timing Podcast as well. Chris is an ever-living blue-eyed thing. You can also find us over on YouTube where you can see our faces. We are Comic Timing Podcast on there as well. And patreon.com/comic timing if you want to go ahead and can support the show in any way, shape, or form. Once again, thanks to Shane, thanks to Murd, thanks to Chris, and thanks to Kyle Higgins for making a damn good comic.
Yeah, indeed.
There's always time for comics. I want Radiant Chartreuse.
God, I love you.